Beate, you have an interesting story. I know that most people start with this story. How did you manage to get out of debt? Is this something you want to begin with, or what is your inspiration for the
I think
beginning of our
that
conversation?
we can jump in any way you want, Zarina. I don't have a preference one way or another. I think that a lot of times it's a great way to talk about how do you overcome adversity and how do you dig yourself out of a lot of debt, $135,000 in debt. And what is it that you have to, what are the attributes you must possess? And what's the mental attitude? And I know you talk a lot about mindset and attitude as well. What, like, how do you get in trouble and how do you get yourself out of trouble? And the story is that I had immigrated from Germany to Los Angeles, and I was a single mom. My ex-husband was an alcoholic and a pathological liar, and I found this out a little bit too late. And then I'm a single mom suddenly with a 6 months old daughter, and now all these disasters just keep on coming: fires, floods, riots, earthquakes. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then as I'm going through this disaster after disaster, and these are like really, really big things, September 11th, in 24 hours, my business was taken down by the planes that took down the towers because nobody would come from Germany and go to Los Angeles and let me produce their photo shoots. I mean, nobody would do that. And so I find myself deep in debt, completely frustrated. I couldn't believe why every time I felt I turned a corner, there was somebody else with a big cast iron frying pan hitting me over the head. It's just like, and it wasn't like little things. And then I go to Germany, and my father has a stroke, but my father didn't have a stroke. My father had pancreatic cancer. And so my dad dies in only like 6 weeks. And so now I lost my best friend. And while we're at the funeral, we get a phone call from my office in Los Angeles. We've been served a notice, so now I'm also losing the house. And so as I'm standing there, there is this moment where I did not really know what else to do. And I was really angry. And I fell to my knees and I raised my fist against God. And I said, dude, if you have a plan here, this would be a really good time to fill me in, because I am out of options. I'm out of moves. I have no money. My best friend's dead. I have to figure out, where am I going to live? I don't even know how I'm going to pay for this funeral. And then I just surrendered. I let go. I let God. And I, had to come back, figure out my bankruptcy attorney to see how I was going to somehow manage to get rid of the debt, and then figure out what my next move was going to be. And then I get a letter from the White House. And in my absolute desperation, Zarina, I had written a letter to the President of the United States. So people's like, you did what? I'm like, yeah, I did. It was like pure desperation, because my mother-in-law just kept nagging me about this. Says, you need to write the President of the United States. He's your president after all. If anybody can help you, it's the President of the United States. And you just go like, yeah, wah, 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 keep talking. But I did write the letter.
At that time, it was Bush, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was George W. Bush. Yeah. And at that time, Zarina, I was like, I just gotta have to write this letter just so I don't have to have another conversation with her about it anymore. I come back, I get a letter from the White House, and it says the president sends you his best wishes. Sure. Of course, the president never saw this letter, but it put me in touch with the Small Business Administration. And because it was a letter from the White House, I was put in touch with a top dog at the office. They helped me to restructure my debt, freed up my line of credit. 3 months later, I'm break even. 18 months later, I'm a world leader in my category. Next thing I know, a Bill Gates company comes and knocks on my door and says, can you tell us how to do it? And I said, absolutely not. You want it, you buy it. They say, how much do you want? I say, millions. They say, fine. And that's how it all turned.
Wow. What a story. What kind of a business was it?
It was a stock photography business. I was doing architecture, interior, and celebrity at home licensing.
Uh-huh. I don't really know what that is, but...
No, like when you buy a magazine, or you go to the hairdresser, or you get your nails done and you flip through the magazines, and then you see Madonna's house, or you see Francis Ford Coppola's retreat on an island, we would be the ones who took those photos. Or you go into your home improvement store, you want to pick a color for your house, and there's all these pictures of these houses with the red roof and the blue door. We would be supplying those kinds of images.
Mm-hmm. Beate, what do you attribute this to? Was it like because of the sudden hope that you got because of the letter, or was it a reawakening of something that you anyhow had in you? What was it that helped you, that propelled you forward? Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, and if we look at the spiritual laws that rule the universe, it's kind of like a textbook case, because it's about making the decision first. So I made the decision that I needed to have a business after all that happened to me that was making money while I wasn't there. So I had made the decision that I was going to build an equity business. I also had made the decision that I never wanted to be thrown out of a house ever again. So I wanted to buy my next one. That was a decision that I made. I made the decision that I wanted to potentially sell my business. And I was going to set it up with the standard operational procedures and everything so I could sell it. So these were decisions that I made. And then I acted as if I knew what I was doing, which between you and me, frankly, I really didn't. But I stumbled through the dark. There was this one moment, just to give you an idea, Zarina, on how audacious some of these things were that I came up with. So I wanted to get into a licensing agreement with the largest provider in the world, which was Getty Images, and still is the largest provider of images in the world. And they were, doing distribution deals for pretty much every stock syndication in the world. And I mean, we're talking millions and millions and millions of images in each deal. So I couldn't get a meeting. So for years, I tried to get this meeting. Finally, I got my meeting. I'm going to fly to Seattle. I'm sitting in this room with all these guys in this fabulous conference room in this great location. And on the other side of the table, it's just me, Zarina. And they say to us, well, we sure do like your collection. So how many images can you give us? And what they were expecting is a number that's like 5 million or 4 million, or at the very least, like 1 million images. And I said, 462. They looked exactly like you're looking right now. They had this slightly amused look where they didn't know if I was joking or if I was just being ridiculous. And then they, ever so gently said, well, this is really kind of not the caliber of deal that we typically get involved with. And I said, wait, not so fast. If you're looking for an agency that is just like bombarding you with lousy, miserable images so you can fill your database, I said, I don't think we are a fit. But you have to remember that my photographers are the A-listers. They photograph Madonna's house, Julianne Moore's house, Simon Baker's house, Seal's house. They do all the A-listers. They work with the A-list architects and interior designers. That they don't need to go on a shoot and take hundreds of images. I say they take one.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so if you want that one, I said, then I'm the right place. If you prefer to have a mediocre photographer who gives you hundreds that are not even close to that one that I'm giving you, I said, go ahead. And so I got the agreement. Mm-hmm. And then that was what was the first deal that gave me the cash flow so I could build a business.
Mm-hmm. How did you dare to approach them, or how did you get your foot in the door?
I have, and I write about this in my book, Happy Woman, Happy World. So I have a rule that I invented, and it's called the Cinderella rule for working women. And I found that when you go to conferences, that after the conference, all the men go to the hotel bar, all of them. They go to every happy hour, they go to all the hotel bars. Women don't. And the women don't like to go unless they're in their team group, and then they typically go early. It's because they have to make phone calls to their kids. They don't like men getting drunk, which happens a lot on conferences at the hotel bar. And so I figured, well, if that's where everybody is, that's where I need to go. And so the Cinderella rule goes like this. You always dress up for the bar. 3-drink maximum. in bed before midnight and you walk to your room alone.